Good afternoon, Mr. Minister. I'm very glad for you being here. For those attending from internet, let me introduce myself. We have with us the person who really is running, so your is really valuable. So it's a huge appreciation from me personally and the chamber for founding these minutes to come with us. It is a great joy because there's not only the pandemic, there are also other issues having to do with the investment perspectives of health, but also the issues of daily management and reforms. So you lay the foundation right away. I give the opportunity to make a presentation on the pandemic because I understand that due to the pandemic, we cannot have a market with everything closed. So most probably the main question of all of us attending is whether we move ahead business as usual. Yes, we do. Now we experience the fourth wave, which is the most difficult from this viewpoint. On one hand, we've got 73% of the adult population vaccinated, 63% of the general population, but we also have an economy and society that operate normally. And from this viewpoint, the national health system is under stress additionally due to COVID. We have taken all measures. We have 15,000 additional people from the personnel who have more than doubled the ICU beds. We are absolutely sincere to the people. The system is under pressure. Has also been enhanced by the private sector that has offered both COVID and non-COVID beds. But the steady position of the government is that there will be no lockdown in relation to the population that is vaccinated. Therefore, the vaccinated citizens will have full access, free access everywhere, and respectively, economy and society will operate normally. There's no other thought for any other pressure and measure imposed on vaccinated society. So we will not be witnessing again situations of local general lockdowns or situations of very limiting regulations. Okay, this is crystal clear, understood. So we are here to see what is the contribution of health in the part of the GDP development and tax revenues, so forth. As you know, I've spent many years abroad. During the crisis, I felt that this sector, especially the pharma industry, was accused of many things. At a level perhaps was almost penalized if one makes profit. I think it is high time we shared all that. I think has already changed over the last years. Now, investment, be it clinical trials or production units, or having to do with the health providers in primary healthcare, it's something needed by the sector. The level of clinical trials currently seems to be very low with regard to Greece. We speak of 32 billion euros, perhaps slightly more. Studies that we might indirectly have them invest universities, jobs, physicians to come back to Greece. And there's a great share. We must take more. How will that? The big problem with the clinical trials has to do not only in financial income, but also for the patient who have better access to therapies, because the more clinical trials affected here, the better access our patients have. It is indeed very sad, although we have excellent infrastructure in human resources and plants, the rate of attracting clinical trials is very low, 50 million euros, whereas similar countries with respective population and potential, such as Cyprus, for instance, which is far smaller than us, is high ranking. The main problem has with the absence of incentives to date, and we offer the opportunity now to be solved with investment clawback, but also red tape. Therefore, the big wage is to quickly make clearance of the folders. The EOF procedure proceeds in quite satisfactory procedures. The problem lies with hospitals. Now we promote changes. It is difficult, of course, now due to the pandemic, but we promote changes so as to have a clear facilitation. This has to do with curtailing red tape, especially with the scientific boards of hospitals. We also have the investment clawback, which means that companies bringing in new clinical trials in companies, this sum will be deduced from clawback as innovation. So we have an open invitation to big companies that they can reap the fruit from this opportunity and put our country in the map of clinical trials. I believe that gradually this will be shown, but there's huge path to walk so as to enter the clinical trials. I think that this with the investment clawback, you already put your contribution before you undertook this folder. It seems, therefore, that the market has greatly appreciated that, has embraced it. There are pharma industries, pharma companies currently that already brought in clinical trials in 2019 and 2020, but the new framework, which is in force since October the 1st, leaves them outside. I understand, and I would like to express a disappointment from their side that they managed to convince the mother companies to bring in clinical trials. But as you know, from the point of bringing in a clinical trial and paying invoices, 2 or 3 years elapse. These clinical trials seem to be outside the investment clawback. Do you examine any scenarios to retrieve that? What's the scenario? Indeed, my participation was also as a technocrat because my doctoral thesis was on clinical trials on drugs. And as an MP, I was greatly involved so as to apply this framework. And this framework is important because you must understand, as you very well said, the pharma industry, yes, there might have been periods when the drug, the medication was characterized by great waste. Even currently, I'm not so pleased by the consumption. I think it's far higher than it should be. But this is the fault of the state that doesn't have the appropriate mechanism and prescription rules. On the other hand, having 1,300,000,000 euros in clawback, if we take that all in consideration, is huge. So this investment clawback had this direction. It is a very serious fund that has been earmarked in the RF, and this is combined with the co-accountability of the state. That is, we assume the responsibility to reduce the expenditure. Otherwise, we will pay for that. So there's a clear political will to reduce clawback and attract investment at the same time. The problem that arose, and it is very tangible to the extent that we can discuss that, because investment clawback, even to be completed and be accepted as a non-state support, was broadly debated. My intentions is to view the possibility so as for those who have brought in clinical trials to be in this regime. It's something that is under examination. Well, I can tell you here that there's a very blurred line with the state subsidy. Therefore, it's this issue of flexibility that each minister would like to have is not there due to the competition laws of the European Union. But I keep that, the will you said, and I retain what you said about the clawback, and we'll resume on that. But let us also speak of plants, production plants. As I view it, we have one thing on how we will boost the role of our country as an export force in the field of medication, how Greece will become a hub for Greek plants and not solely, how they may use the Greek human resources and what we can offer as a country due to our geographic location as well for exports, and how, technologically speaking, we will pass to the next generation of production in Greece with investment and technologically sophisticated state-of-the-art plants. Well, from the viewpoint of domestic industry, that's true. We have excellent production forces from big pharma industries as well as multinationals. You refer to the example of Berger, for instance, that is has installations here. In the framework of exploiting the investment clawback, quite a number of companies have presented programs at the great wages and challenge, and there's also a debate open in the European Union. In the field of pharma, the pandemic has shown one of the lessons we were taught, without entering on terms of protectionism, but on competition, we must understand the European Union must have less dependency, especially from Asian markets, because it was clearly seen by the pandemic witness, and others are to come down the pipeline, that could not be satisfied neither on time nor in quality and number of material. So it is clearly our will to offer such incentives. It is very important, and here we must be sincere with the Greek pharma industry, the rationale of the past that through a protection, generally speaking, be it having to do with prices, there cannot be any serious growth. This can only come when we have very important production plants with new and modern equipment that will give the opportunity of cooperation with multinationals, because the big wage is not to have as merely a production plant covering the needs of Greece. Greece is a small market. The point is, as it happens with bigger Greek pharma industries, to have more than 70 or 80% of their products exported. So yes, we may speak of an added value for the country, and in parallel, along with those production units, we can also find other multinationals that might see the opportunity and come in cooperation and have their plants here. Through clawback, we want to achieve all that. At the same time, there's the capacity from the tools offered from the RRF to a broader framework and the preferential loans offered. We consider, therefore, that this is a major pledge of our country, that is, no longer have an industry depending on the country to survive, but the industry per se to pursue extrovert character and be far more offering to the country. Excellent. I also saw two big pharma industries that inaugurated their new plants. Yes, big, that's true, big investments. I would also mention the investments in services, either the digital hub of Pfizer and the call centers and the clinical trial center again in Thessaloniki. All that bring in scientific personnel and also create a hub of services. And all that is something that creates the preconditions so as to have here a scientific personnel that will shape the new generations with new jobs from our university alumni. A third field, health suppliers. This is a field which for the last 4 or 5 years shows private investments, especially from private equity funds. CVC has already invested heavily in private sector health. Others are to follow. It seems, therefore, that investments with regard to extensions, new units, new technological equipment, it seems that all these are not covered by the development law. I was concerned about that. I suppose there must be reasons dictating that stance. Are there any other incentives that you currently discuss so as to have such investments? Because this is a sector, because it seems to be on the rise on a global scale, and it seems that there are overvalues for the investors. The Ministry for Health has already presented a bill on this sector. I hope that it will be put into consultation. These are the transforms of AOP. The major problem to date is that we operated on the terms that whoever would like could be contributed without quality criteria. This will be no longer the case. In the medication, we have 2 billion euros in out hospital, 528 in hospital clawback, 1 billion along with the private investment, and similarly with the honored DRGs, 1.5 billion euros, we had 271 million euros in clawback. So what do we say to all those suppliers? We say that in the AOP reform, we will include quality criteria. That is, we will assess not only services but also machinery, and therefore a qualitative rebate will be introduced, monitoring the material equipment and speaking with sincerity to the insured persons, because this is the ones we are accountable to. We say that there will be also suppliers who will no longer contracting with AOP. AOP is not the solution for anyone who would like to be active. Our role is to get quality services at low prices. So as far as the ministry is concerned, the last generation machinery will also have better pricing in the payment. Following some deadline, there will be no longer be a contract with the LP, and therefore, from the payment per se, it will be an incentive for the companies to do their business plan and change the fleet of machinery, and that will be to the benefit of the insured person, the insured citizen. And at the same time, we'll have a broader opportunity to see in companies that will really want to proceed in these investments, where we could offer some kind of assistance, which doesn't concern our ministry. We do that mainly, primarily, on the rationale that the insured citizen must have better service. AOP should operating as an insurance organization, not as an organization that merely negotiates with the suppliers. We want this 7 billion euros managed by AOP to be given for serious services, and from this viewpoint, incentives offered to innovation will be such that I believe will attract investment. We are under critique here. What will happen if there is an oligopoly created in the market? I don't believe that that will be the case. There are many suppliers, even small suppliers, who are very qualitative and have no problem to exploit the opportunity. Those who do not want the introduction of quality criteria are those who know that the quality that they offer is very low. Therefore, the rationale of the Ministry of Health is through quality indices and criteria to boost through payment and rebates those who invest in last generation machinery. This is the magic word. It doesn't concern solely health. It regards all portfolios. I believe that the serious investors in the private health will agree. In conclusion, I must come back to clawback. You also said that it almost reaches 1 billion euros. I believe that various commitments have been voiced by your predecessors vis-à-vis the limitation or even abolition of the clawback. It's non-realistic to my view, but anyway, this is my personal view. This is not realistic. We can't abolish it. But anyway, what investors really seek is to have some ceiling in all that. They want to know that this is it, and further down, it's a one-way street. It goes downwards, that is. Is there such a plan to offer that kind of feeling of security? Yes, medication clawback is the most difficult equation that we have to solve. If it were not a pandemic, we would say that this is the number one problem, because actually political leadership rested on its laurels because they were not paying, so they were not annoyed this clawback would soar. Within this week, we will also have the first regulations on pharma expenditure that will be announced. We have taken their proposals. In the short term, it's clear that both pharmaceutical protocols and the digital folder will help in bridging clawback. But I want to be realistic. This whole discussion of the three categories, a digital folder and DRGs, will pay, but not within 22, but actually in 24, 25. Those who are the pharma industry have already heard that. We would definitely put them in as top priority, but at the same time, we must have other structural measures which will be under three categories. The first one would be the part of negotiations. That is, they must feel some kind of safety that when they enter into negotiation and offering secret rebates, they will know that they can draft their budget securely. So it will be part of rebate. The second part will have to do with treatments of low value and which are in the list of payment, how they would be rationalized. I cannot understand why vitamin D would be paid by 75 million, 5 million. So there must be some categories on closed budget. And the last part, great problem, is curtailing consumption. And because it may take some time, the priority is to be able to control the consumption in other EU countries. What I do not want, and has to do with prices, I believe that the problem has nothing to do with the price, has to do with consumption. We will keep open, however, the margin, and we will say so clearly that if these measures do not pay or there's no cooperation, because negotiations also entail and imply the cooperation of the pharma industry, then we will move to further reduction. It would be not be the first option, but it would be one of the options. I will not be afraid to view issues having to do with the uninsured segment. It's a huge chapter. We can't pay 310 million euros per year for the non-insured. Two categories must be introduced, and all the suppliers and political parties will agree in that. We must see that this money is indeed for uninsured persons, because there's an estimate there that lots of registry numbers there who do not even reside in Greece, or relatives that bear the benefits. And the second part, for some really for the uninsured, could not bear the Ministry for Health. This has to do with Social Security. It doesn't have to do with DRG. All that will be presented. The goal is within 2021 to try to keep the expenditure at the level of 2020, and starting at 2022, excuse me, with a sincere discussion, as I presented here, to be able to discuss on a serious reduction of clawback. When all that structural measures are implemented, perhaps this budget is too low. We will only know that when all the structural measures are introduced. We will really see what the excess expenditure is, and we will be able to know what is the real expenditure. Let us start the other way around. Effect the necessary reductions and there see what is our real expenditure and our goal. I keep the immediate actions. I keep the common goal setting on expenditure and goal back, and I also keep the fact that digital transformation of hospitals and clinics, all these are comparative, and we lead that as soon as possible. Thank you. I thank you. Thank you for observing the time.